unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. It's neighborhood cat enthusiast, me, David Cooper, coming at you from my desk here. I've locked my kitty Tomato out of the room because he was having a bit of a meltdown today. He's too friendly. He bites and he's too friendly. All right, tonight's show I am ecstatic about. We talked about his story last week, and we're having him on the show this week. It's the World Excel Champion. Yes, the man who won a competition for Microsoft Excel use that was held in Las Vegas. He is a legend. In 10 minutes' time, we will be with truly one of the greats. I don't even know what to say. I revere this guy, and you'll find out what his favorite macro is and why he gets so much joy from excelling at Excel. See what I did there? You see what I did? Excelling? Excel? Huh? After that, the author of a weekly one-page newspaper that is about herself. And it's not fanciful tales, mind you. Her newspaper has headlines that read, "Woman finds chocolate bar hidden under papers," or "Woman keeps biting same spot on lip." Her newspaper has a cult following. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one and ask the deep questions about what it means to create art every week for over 20 years. That'll be at the middle of the hour. It's going to be a great and fun show tonight. I'm really glad you're tuning in. Let's jump into it, though.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, or maybe from today for tomorrow. If you're confused, you're not alone. This is what happens on The Last Show with David Cooper.
It's advice for your tomorrows yesterday from the other evening or something. Honestly, my favorite time of the night. The other day, I took to the streets or the park. You should just be proud of me for leaving the house. I spoke to strangers and asked them what their advice would be for their tomorrow self. A way to speak to themselves in the future, giving themselves advice. It's really simple. Anyway, today, the future from yesterday's perspective. That's tomorrow from yesterday, but today from today. At least I think I have that right. Carry the two. Yeah, advice from your yesterday's from tomorrow. So what I'll do today is play my yesterday's interview from strangers and then check in with two individuals who are here today. It's advice for your tomorrow self yesterday. So here's what I recorded in the park just a few days ago with a young couple named Kacy and Robbie. All right, to the park yesterday, and then we'll be today after we're yesterday. We're here with Kacy and Robbie. We're doing advice for your tomorrow self yesterday. What is your advice for your tomorrow self?
I think just kind of trust yourself and be kind to yourself. It's easy to be really self-critical in the moment, but sometimes you got to take a step back and just know that you're probably doing the right thing and that your intentions are right, and don't forget it.
That was the wrong thing. That totally sucked, but thank you, Robbie. And Kacy, what is your advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday today?
All right. Well, mine's going to sound pretty cheesy too, but that was good. I would just say, take a deep breath and kind of really recognize where you're at, because you're always wishing you're at a place in your life that you're not, and you are today where you once wished you were yesterday, and tomorrow you'll wish you're somewhere else, and so long. So just take it one step at a time and take a deep breath.
Nailed it. You guys are great. All right, we're back to now. We're back to today. That was yesterday. This is today. That was the advice from yesterday. We are following up with our yesterday self today. It's advice from your yesterday self tomorrow. From today, that's today. Tomorrow was yesterday. God, I'm such an idiot. Let's move on. I'm joined by Kacy and Robbie. Kacy, welcome to the show.
Hi, happy to be here.
You say that now. Robbie, welcome to you.
What's going on?
First of all, you guys are very sincere, and I like that about you. My New Year's resolution is to do gratitude journaling. So far, I haven't done any.
Well, it's never too late.
But you know what? I wish I was more of a sincere person. So I really like that your future advice is like aspirational. Robbie, yours was trust yourself and be kind to yourself. Have you been doing so in the last few days?
I mean, I think so. Honestly, I've been trying. It's been one of my goals for a while, and I think I'm getting better at it. Maybe I'm perfect, but I'm getting better.
Are you hard on yourself? Because I'm certainly hard on myself.
Definitely.
He is. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, being really hard on yourself can kind of get you where you are today. Like, I've always said you're weak. I mean, I'm not the person who made this up. I've always said your weaknesses are also your superpowers. So if you take like being too hard on yourself, it can make you be a really productive, really effective, really high-functioning, a person who excels at what they do. But on the flip side, it's like, emotionally difficult. So the things that make you very weak also make you very strong.
Definitely.
Like, my girlfriend says I'm too social. I talk to everybody, but sometimes she's at the coffee shop and she's like, I wish we could just get a coffee without you telling the barista your damn life story. But she likes that I'm friendly because she likes that I make friends. So it's these things about us that are like weaknesses and superpowers. And I guess for yours, being too hard on yourself is one of them.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I feel like being social for you probably helps with a radio show too. So
True, it does. All right, Kacy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready to take a deep breath and recognize where you're at?
Oh my gosh. Quoting myself back to me, I feel famous.
You are famous. Sure, let's go with that. I like this you are today where you wished you were yesterday, because I'm always like, okay, I wanted all these things and then I achieve them and I'm immediately on to the next thing. You know, like, oh, if only I could just achieve this. And then 5 years later I do. I don't even care. I'm just like on to the next thing. This is not a good way to live, is it?
No. And I find myself constantly, I was definitely speaking from obviously personal experience as a student. Like, I think that's a huge thing. Like, you're always wanting this next step going towards a career and there's an end goal. But then like once you get to your career, you know, you're always wanting something more. And I think that's like a really human thing, but it can definitely take you out of a place like gratitude. And, you know, you have to slow down for sure.
I am an alcoholic, and while I was still drinking, I'm sober now. I would say it's not about the journey, it's about the broken relationships you make along the way. Because I used to break a lot of relationships, but all jokes aside, it's not really about the destination. It's about the journey and who you meet along the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you followed your advice, the two of you? Would you feel like you honored your yesterday's self?
It's a work in progress, I think. It's going to continue, but sure.
we hold each other semi-accountable.
Hold each other accountable, yeah.
Nice.
But I think we definitely do our best to listen to that advice. And you definitely allowed us space to think, because after we were stopped on the street and actually had to answer that question, you know, the rest of our day was like, oh, well, now I'm going to be a little bit more mindful.
Yeah, we were skipping through Central Park full of gratitude.
My advice that day was eat more fiber. I was having trouble. I was backed up. I followed my advice, in case you're wondering.
Well, lovely.
It's a win.
It's a great win. Well, thanks so much for doing the show. Thanks for talking to me in the park. You talked to a weird stranger, and now here we are.
Oh, well, we love talking to weird strangers.
Yeah.
And brings us to places like this, so it's great.
Well, we have the technology to check in with our future selves, but we're working on the technology for you to check in with your past selves, so you could speak to you in the park from today. When we get that figured out, I'll call you guys back.
Yeah, let us know. Keep us updated.
Yeah, we're close. Just got a few wires to plug in or something. And when we do, it'll be advice from your yesterday's self from tomorrow. If you want to participate in advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, give the show a call. The number is 1-888-505-6644 and leave a voicemail with your callback number and your advice for your tomorrow self. We'll call you back live on the show, and you can see if you followed your yesterday's advice today. 1-888-505-6644. Just prepare some advice for your tomorrow self. And if you do that now, that'll be today. But when we follow up with you, it'll be yesterday, and that'll be advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, today, which will be the day we do the show. 1-888-505-6644. Leave a voicemail. It's not confusing at all. After the break, a legend, my personal hero, the crowned king of Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. I'm not joking. This guy won an Excel tournament in Las Vegas. I'm honestly honored he's coming on this show. We'll sum it up with his favorite macro. See what I did there? Because sum's an Excel thing. You're going to love what's up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. 6644. Turning headline news into punchline gold. 5 nights a week. The Last Show with David Cooper.
People have called our next guest a legend, an iconoclast, a once-in-a-generation visionary, a warrior of the worksheet, a gladiator of the graphs, a Mozart of the macros, and all of those people have been me. His name is Michael Jarman, and he's a man in Canada who recently won an international competition in Vegas to become the World Microsoft Excel champion. I am in the presence of one of the greats. Michael, my goodness, I am so glad you are talking to me today.
It's an honor to be here, honestly, David. I think the honor's all mine.
Let's start here. What actually happens at the Excel World Champions in Vegas? Why is it so epic? And is it true what they say? What happens at the Excel Championship in Vegas stays at the Excel Championship in Vegas?
Certainly is true. Yeah, no, it's a reasonable question as to how one can compete to be the best at building spreadsheets. Generally, the concept is you're given some sort of like mini case study. It's usually based around some sort of game. This year, the final was based around World of Warcraft. Yeah, last year they've had Eve, they've had card games, backgammon. And essentially, you're given increasingly difficult problems to solve, sort of like model a turn, model several turns.
Can we get kind of technical here? Because I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a dumb nerd, but a nerd nonetheless, sort of the opposite of you, a smart nerd. So they put all the numbers in the sheet, and then you got to write macros and formulas and compute things? Is that the basic?
Pretty much, yeah. You're given, so there's only like 7 levels of difficulties. The first one, like most people who have used Excel before.
Aren't there 7 layers to Dante's Inferno or Hell? That's an odd parallel here.
Certainly, yeah. I think for a lot of people, that would be the 7 circles of hell. But I think, yeah, a lot of people who've used Excel before could.
It's 9. It's 9.
Is it 9? Okay. Well, there are some bonus questions as well, so you can add those to it. But yeah, so the first levels are generally approachable by people who've used Excel, and it gets increasingly more difficult of like, yeah, here are 20 different versions of the game, model what happens in a 30-minute time period.
All right, so you're up there on stage in front of your computer.
Yeah.
I've seen esports competitions. That's when a bunch of, nerds are on stage, like playing video games like StarCraft or whatever, and there's an audience. Like, how many people are in this audience watching you and cheering you on?
Yeah, it certainly has grown. Like we're at like a proper esports arena in Vegas. I think sort of there were several hundred people there. So competitive Excel has come a long way. Like I won a previous competition about 7 or 8 years ago, but that's literally like you go and do an exam in a Microsoft boardroom with a load of other like-minded nerds, and nobody really cares about the wiser. Whereas now there's an audience. It's on ESPN. Like the media, like come and interview people afterwards. It's utterly bizarre how far it's come.
Okay, so you're up there, you win. The person you defeated, the former record holder, and this guy's got a bunch of records. He's won a bunch of years.
Yeah.
His nickname is also the Annihilator. That must be an amazing feeling to defeat the Annihilator.
Yeah. He's Andrew. It's funny because he's a very sort of calm, sort of like very sort of reserved guy. But he goes. His nickname they've given him is the Annihilator, and yeah, he'd won it 3 times in a row. So to dethrone him was certainly very nice.
What about nerves? Do you get nervous for the competition? Like, are you an anxious performer? Or are you just 100% focused and in flow mode?
I think certainly the first few minutes, and like this is the second year it's sort of been in front of an audience and on TV in Vegas. And I remember like in 2023, so the first time I went out for like the semifinals, like the first 5 minutes, I pretty much forgot everything I knew and just sort of like muddled through. I definitely think the fact that I've sort of done it, like I'd done it the year before and, a bit more experience with it helped. But if you think of all the times you're at work and you're trying to like battle with a spreadsheet and it's a bit stressful, like it's more stressful if there's hundreds of people watching you.
Are you friends with the Annihilator? Do you guys get along, or are you guys?
Yeah. It's.
Do you ever send him threatening text messages? You probably should.
No, it's a very friendly rivalry, and I would say in general it's an exceptionally sort of friendly community. Like everyone's sort of, very, very happy to sort of share tips and whatnot. I think everybody's just so happy that this is now a thing that united Excel nerds across the world.
How do you get into this? How do you even discover that this is a thing? Also, how do you realize that you like spreadsheets? I feel like the common narrative in most businesses and schools and stuff is everyone hates spreadsheets. And you know, as a man, I imagine, start loving these things. Walk me through the beginning of the journey and then how we get to the competition.
Yeah, I think that the first time I remember using spreadsheets was I was about 8 and I was tracking all of the results from the 2002 football World Cup. And I remember doing that. And yeah, I've always sort of played with spreadsheets with a child, which I think says a lot about me. And yeah, but obviously to a very sort of, noddy amateur level. And then, my current job essentially is just spreadsheeting all day, or it used to be. I'm now sort of a bit more senior, so it's been more meetings about spreadsheets. But yeah, so that's sort of how I sort of got to get good and learn sort of more about it. I actually came across sort of the original competition that I mentioned. Like when I started work, my manager at the time was a woman called Hilary Smart, who just won the old competition. And I was like, oh, that's quite intimidating. So that's how I found out about it. Entered that one a few years later. That one folded for various reasons. And then
drugs, money, legal crime. There was a smuggling ring around the Excel competition.
I wish it was that interesting. I think the people who ran it just got bored of running it.
That was my second guess.
But then one of the old competitors, Andrew Grigalinovich, he decided that he was going to start this new competition. He decided that we were going to be televised in Vegas. And I'll be honest, I thought he was insane, but here we are.
There are records that you would like to break. It's not just about winning for you. What are some of these records you'd like to annihilate yourself? Huh? See what I did there?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be very tough to beat 3 in a row. The competition really has ramped up in the last couple of years. Somebody in the top 30 now could probably go back to 2021 and wipe the floor with me and Andrew in the final. So it really has come a long way. I think for me, there is still a more financy competition that is run by the same people called the Financial Modelling World Cup, and nobody's ever won both. So I'm currently winning in the other one this year, which is quite good for me. I'm usually second or third. So if I could do the double, that would be really incredible.
When you're in the competition, you've got 60,000 people watching you live on YouTube. Were you aware of that number at the time? Does that feed into the nerves?
Was it that many?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I clearly didn't because I wasn't aware it was that many. I know a lot of people watch it and a lot more than I thought. And I remember the first ever time we did a live Excel battle was probably about 3 years ago during COVID. I remember just before we went live, looking at the YouTube, it's there's 3,000 people watching this. Really? That's more than I was anticipating. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the whole streaming and televised aspect is really cool. And you can go back and watch it and that's amazing. But that element, I don't really think about too much. It's more just the fact that you're in an arena, you're you're on stage in the lights. And I think that's the element where the pressure comes in.
Favorite feature, macro, formula, quirk, favorite thing about Excel?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the favorite thing about Excel is just and it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's how versatile it is. And there are a lot of people who use Excel for things that they probably shouldn't be using Excel for. They should probably use some proper grown-up programming language that I would not be very good at. Because the fact that people can do anything. You can people can manipulate data. They can do financial models. I've seen people who've painted pictures in Excel. There's a Japanese artist who creates these beautiful landscape paintings just by going through and changing the color of each cell and zooming out. It's just, you can express yourself a lot more in it than I think people would think.
Anything you want to say to your legions and legions of fans and admirers, those who look up to you as a role model? That the list of those people are me mostly, but anything you would like to say to us?
I mean, it's bizarre having fans. I do very occasionally. I mean, I'm not under any sort of notion that I'm a big celebrity, but people do occasionally sort of stop me, especially when wearing my XL jacket in the streets, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw you on the news. It's really cool." So yeah, I'm very appreciative of all that.
Michael, you are a legend. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thanks, David.
Michael Jarman is the spreadsheet king, nay, spreadsheet emperor, and the winner of the Excel World Championships. When we come back, one woman releases a newspaper with the most hilariously mundane headlines every week. Things like, "New pizza crust delights local woman." She's got a cult following, and you'll find out why news that's barely fit to print equals comedy gold after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
If you've ever lost an earring in your couch and felt that should have been national news, you'll love our next guest. For over 20 years, she's chronicled the small, strange, normal moments of her life. It's like a one-woman newsroom over here. So tonight we have Jennifer Mills of Jennifer Mills News. Jennifer, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, thank you for having me, David.
We got to start with the basics here. For someone who's never read Jennifer Mills News, how would you describe what it is and what it isn't?
Great question. It is news. It's all true. It's a news outlet written by Jennifer Mills, with reporting by Jennifer Mills about the life of Jennifer Mills and edited by Jennifer Mills.
That's you. Okay, I got it. I'm just taking notes here. It's hard to follow. And the headlines are often extremely mundane to the point of, for me, high comedy. Things like woman lets out massive sigh on public transportation, or this one I think we can all relate to as I sniff my armpits. Woman keeps forgetting to buy deodorant. But let's go back to the beginning. When did Jennifer Mills News first start, and where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so it started in, I did buy deodorant, by the way.
Good. A good interviewer would have followed that one up, which I did not.
That's important news. I started the newspaper in 2002 when I was in high school. We had a computer lab, which, as you know, maybe you know, in 2002 was kind of a luxury. But the bigger luxury is we were allowed to print as much as we wanted to. And I just really wanted to find a way to take advantage of the endless printing, to be honest with you. And I always had about a half an hour before class on Friday when I would get to school. So I just started cranking out a newspaper so that I could use the printer.
That was it? You just wanted to use the printer?
I just wanted to use the printer. And at the beginning, I would always print 11 copies, hard copies, and pass them out at school. And they would sort of make their rotation. And it was just a piece of paper at the beginning.
Was it a hit? Did your friends like it? Did it make you popular?
I gotta say, I don't know if anyone's ever really popular, but it was a hit. It was great. People loved it, and they passed it around like a secret little piece of contraband. And it was a hit. What can I say? I'm happy to say that.
Your headlines are so mundane; they're kind of magical to me. What becomes newsworthy for you? At what point do you decide this thing happened in my life, therefore it's a headline?
Yeah, I think it's any moment that sort of makes you stop for even a millisecond. So if a butterfly lands on you, you don't just keep walking without at least registering that happened. And I think that's the bar the news has to at least pass, is that you recognize that something happened.
Do you ever embellish? Do you ever brag? Do you ever stretch the truth a little to make something a little more mundane or a little more curious?
I really don't. I really, really try to stick to journalism standards on this one. I like people to believe that it's true. And the thing is that you absolutely will believe it's all true when you read it. There's nothing unbelievable about it.
What kind of fans do you have of your newsletter? Do people reach out? Are people reading every word here? Do you have a huge following?
Well, the beautiful thing is the very first small group of subscribers are still subscribing. So my mom and dad and, some of my high school teachers are still on the list. And so it's really cool because this group of subscribers that I have ranges from people that I knew when I was 16 when I started it to people that I just met yesterday, or, strangers that email me wanting to be on the list because they just heard about it word of mouth or from however they heard it. So it's a real eclectic mix, and I really like that.
Sounds like a strong community of which you are the focal point. That sounds really nice, actually.
It's really sweet, and people send emails, and I really try to email everyone back as much as I can, and people are just really great, and a lot of people will email and be like, hey, I got a new pair of Crocs this week too. And it's just really great to connect over stuff like that.
What's the most surprising reaction you've gotten from someone who's read your newsletter?
Oh, I was so touched one Christmas. I got an email from someone that I didn't know, but a subscriber who sent me a picture of him and his girlfriend who had both given each other my book of poetry for Christmas. And they didn't know, but they had just given each other the same gift, and it was that book. And that was just so touching. And there is a book of poetry that's all just poems lifted from the news called Bad Poems Happen to Good People.
I love that. Yeah, let's talk about your poetry corner. Every issue that has a little bit of poetry in it as well as the headlines?
Yeah, maybe for the last, 10, 15 years, the third column of this 3-column newspaper has been fully devoted to poetry. It's called the Poetry Corner, and there's usually 2 to 3 poems about something.
Any come to mind that you're particularly proud of?
There's a particular poem. This is maybe the only one that I have truly memorized, which is the rains are coming, the lightning it could strike ye. I'm too nervous to wear my brand new pair of Nikes.
There's something about this daily documentation of life that to me makes your newsletter high art.
No, thank you.
Like really deeply what it means to be creative. Also, I think what it means to be creative is like generating on a consistent basis, whether you wake up feeling like an artist or not. To me, that's what makes it art. Do you consider what you do art?
Wow, that's really beautiful. I've been doing it for so long that it's kind of just like a routine or like a habit or I don't know, maybe like a special ritual. And I think that if it ever were to become art to anyone, it's because people are reading it and like maybe seeing themselves in it, but not because of what I've done. Or maybe, I don't know. That's a really interesting question.
Well, this show I do now is 2 hours a night, but in my old job, I used to do 4 hours of talk radio, 5 days a week.
Yeah, wow.
And I was so out of ideas every day, but I had to be generative anyway. And through that process, to me, I thought, this is what it means to be an artist, to wake up and not feel like one at all, to not feel creative at all, but create anyway.
Yeah.
And for me, your newsletter kind of speaks to that deep. For me, it's about being consistent, putting things out every day, whether you're feeling great or not. For me, your newsletter really challenges that and speaks to that.
That's really beautiful. And I think it's incredible that you were able to push through that boundary and keep going. Because I do think, I totally agree with you. There's a discipline involved in being a creative person. And if you give yourself an assignment and you force yourself to do it, there will be moments where you sit down and you're like, I got nothing. And when that happens, I literally just start like moving my fingers like they're typing. And sometimes they just start making words. So yeah, I know that feeling. And it really is a magical feeling when you can push through that.
But that's what it means to be creative. Like when they interview athletes after they win, they're like, oh, we focused hard, we practiced, we shot the thing. We and there's like nothing profound, but what they did while they played was great. There's something about the mundane monotony about being creative that, I don't know, your work speaks to. Side note, I am hoping to make an appearance in the newsletter, like Local Woman does interview with Canada's most irrelevant broadcaster. How does someone get in there? Have you had people try to get into your newsletter?
What a great question. I think you are very relevant, David, to begin with.
You and my mother both.
Yeah, well, speaking of your mother, I think maybe one of the only people that has ever shown up by name in the newspaper is my mother, by the name of Mom. But other than that, it's really just a one-woman band.
It would follow that Jennifer Mills News would be mostly, if not completely, about Jennifer.
True to its name.
Well, Jennifer Mills is a writer and producer for the NPR program Wait, Don't Tell Me. Just search Jennifer Mill News online. You'll find her newsletter there. You can subscribe. Jennifer, what a pleasure it was talking to you today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This was super fun. Thank you.
When we come back, pet talk. It's like car talk, but with pets and less helpful. New research finds that more than 99% of dogs have a behavior problem, at least one. Is your pup a troublemaker? But what does this really mean? Is everybody a bad cat dad and a bad cat mom? We'll find out that and more after the break. And by more, I mean we have a vet on the show, so I can ask him for free cat advice. We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
It's pet talk like car talk, but with pets and slightly less helpful. I'm here with Dr. Cliff Redford. Check out his podcast, Vet Life with Dr. Cliff. That's available on all podcast platforms. Clifford, do you like being called your full name?
It doesn't bother me.
Oh my God, there's the dog named Clifford and you're a vet. Who'd have thought? I just thought of that.
And my last name is Redford.
Oh my goodness, how did I miss this?
And my daughter's name is Emily. What?
Wow. Do you like Clifford the friendly dog or whatever he's called?
Clifford the big red dog.
Oh yeah, that's what I said.
Yes, I everyone made fun of me in primary school. Especially because I was anything but big. I'm a very small but mighty man, let's say. I was the smallest in my class, I'm sure. For me,
I like that about you, that you're also short, by the way. You're much stronger than me, but you're short, which I like.
There you go. Yeah, I'm compensating for a lot more than you are, I think. That's why I got tattoos and everything.
I got tattoos.
Not like me. You didn't go to...
What do you mean? Look at this. Come on,
You didn't go to Ukraine. You didn't go to Ukraine to get your tattoos. I went to Ukraine.
Oh, fine. I just walked into a shop and I said, "Give me." I have a matching tattoo with an ex-wife. Okay, she's got the same tattoo on her side bust, if you will.
I had a tattoo. My first wife and I and this was her idea, did an infinity symbol where our wedding ring is supposed to go, because I was taking my wedding ring off for surgery, for sports. And then a couple of years later, she had the Dear John conversation with me. And I literally was like, what the heck are we going to do with these tattoos?
I changed mine a bit. I left it, but I changed it a bit, which I think is a good metaphor. Like I've changed, but my past is a part of me. That's what I did.
You're better than me because I burned this thing off with a laser and a matchstick and whatever I could. So,
all right. Pets.
There you go. Pets with behavioral problems.
Or I thought we were talking about humans with behavioral problems, and that was why I was talking about myself, but then I realized that's not what we're covering. 99% of U.S. dogs have a behavioral problem, according to one researcher.
Yeah, now I think if they move to Canada with the with the exchange rate, that probably goes down to about 67%. But
okay, so Canadian dogs are better behaved because of the tariff war. We understand.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So this was an article. This was a study on Texas A&M College of Veterinary Medicine, which is a really, really good college. Not as good as mine, but a really good college. And they showed that 99% of dogs in this study, which was of 50,000 dog owners, so big study group, 99% of these dogs showed significant behavioral problems. And what they basically did was they had this 28 question questionnaire, and they were listing off different behavioral issues: fear anxiety, separation anxiety, urinating in the house, aggression, those sorts of things. And they had to rank them between 0, no problem, and 4, very, very severe. And yeah, they found that, for example, something like 86% of them had separation anxiety that was either moderate to severe.
My cat has that. My cat has that.
There you go.
Yeah.
55% were aggressive. 50% had regular fear and anxiety to other things other than being left alone.
My cat has all that.
It was a big, big number. So in the end, 99.12%, one or more moderate to severe. Give me a break. I think, I don't know what this is.
Maybe it was the questions. It's like every dog, like every human, like, have you ever not done your homework? Have you ever gotten in trouble in class? If the answer to that question is just once, you could say, oh, during that kid's full term of school, they were a problem child. I feel like the questions could have been vague. And it's like, yeah, well, every dog has a behavioral problem on a bad day.
I think that's what it is. And my the new end of this segment could be Cliff's conclusions. Cliff's conclusions to this are dogs aren't perfect, but guess what? Neither are people. Here's the funny thing. So this was written up in the Journal of Veterinarian Behavior, which to me actually sounds like a journal that talks about the behavior of veterinarians, not about animals. It's not the Journal of Animal Behavior. It's the Journal of Veterinarian Behavior. And definitely 99% of us veterinarians have behavioral problems, usually talking too much to our friend on his podcast.
Radio show.
So dogs aren't perfect. They're very complicated. Talk to your vet, blah, blah, blah. Deal with issues early. But honestly, give me a break. Maybe you have the behavioral problem if you think that one or two issues that your dog has is moderate to severe and causing you that much hassle. People need to relax, and I'd say get a cat, but your cat has behavioral issues too. So.
Yeah, his separation anxiety for sure. He's aggressive. I always say to my friends when they meet my cat, they're like, "Oh, is he a good cat? Is he friendly?" I'm like, "He's extremely friendly, but he bites." And me and my girlfriend were just laying in bed the other day, and he was cuddling her, and then he got in a spicy mood, and he bit her softly. Didn't break the skin, and because she doesn't believe that he bites, and I'm like, "He bites," and we just laugh. We're like, "We love him, but he bites," and I feel like that's true about most pets. We love them, but they have that bad behavior.
Yeah. Is people may say to Miranda, is David a good partner? Yeah, he's pretty good, but
he bites.
Occasionally, he bites.
Yeah.
Or occasionally he does this or does that. Like, give me a break. None of us are perfect. So, way to go, Texas A&M. You basically did this massive study to find out that people take their pet's behavior maybe a little bit too seriously.
It's like study finds that sun rises in the east and sets in the west 100% of the time. It's
something like that. Does it? Is that true?
Well, I guess not 100% of the time because it's like the number of days that the Earth has been orbiting the sun, which is I don't know how many years, 4 billion years times 365 days a year. So, it's a fraction of a percent. We don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow.
North, south, east, and west are just human constructs.
So is everything that humanity has ever constructed. That's all human constructs.
I guess.
My apartment building is a human construct.
The dome that we live under is a human construct, and the sun is just a fiery chariot in the sky of a Greek god.
Look at you. Wow, we're getting deep and philosophical. Cliff, it is pet talk, and I want to come at you with a pet problem. I mostly have you on the show to get free veterinarian advice because veterinarians are not cheap these days, especially not here in New York. My cat has thrown up. Let's pretend this is a random listener. So we're doing like an Ask Alice kind of thing. My cat has thrown up 3 nights in a row now. Should I be concerned? I haven't found anything in his vomit. He is going to the toilet regularly, both number ones and number twos.
All right. So he's using the litter box. I'm assuming he uses the litter box. Using the litter box normally. How old is your cat?
Almost 6.
6. Okay. So prime of his life. He's not vomiting food? Like it's just saliva?
It's food, but usually he eats plastic. Like his one great joy in life is to seek out plastic, eat it, even though we try to hide it and throw it out and all that. He finds it, maybe it's under the couch, eats it like it's his greatest joy, and then he throws up. And he would do this every day if he could. The problem is we didn't really see plastic in the vomit, but when it's mixed with food, maybe you miss a piece.
Yes. Yeah, you could miss it. What is the timeline between eating and vomiting? How long?
Couple hours maybe.
And does he eat later on and keeps it down?
Yeah, usually. And we usually leave his food out, and it sits out, and it's on a tray with old food bits. So I'm thinking maybe it's like a mild food poisoning thing.
No, it's probably a hairball. It's probably something simple. He's just probably got a hairball. Cats and dogs have a very simple vomit reflex, even though when dogs vomit, it's like easiest thing in the world, and then they go and clean it up. Cats, it looks like they're throwing up their liver. But they have a quick vomit reflex, so they don't do it when they're really sick. They can just have the slightest little bit of indigestion and they'll vomit. It's like this evolutionary adaptation that they've had. So I think your cat's going to be fine. You might want to maybe drop by the pet store and pick up like a digestive aid, which is like a petroleum jelly, laxatone, kind of like a flavored Vaseline. But basically to kind of push whatever's in his stomach downwards, because it really does sound like a hairball. The big thing I would be worried about is if it continues every day, then yes, definitely seek real veterinarian advice, not some guy you heard on the radio. You get what you pay for, David. But if he was vomiting, eating, vomiting again, going back, drinking, vomiting, like he couldn't keep anything down, that's a problem. So yeah, try the hairball remedy and I bet you he'll be okay.
All right, it's Pet Talk with Dr. Cliff Redford. When we come back, we'll talk the cost of your cute animals. That is, certain dog breeds aren't exactly healthy, and people buy them and surrender them. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and we'll be back with whatever this show is in a moment.
We solve world problems with radio jingles and bad advice. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is Pet Talk, like car talk, but with pets and less helpful. I'm joined by Dr. Cliff Redford. He is a veterinarian. Check out his podcast, Vet Life with Dr. Cliff. Just search that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. It's on all of them. Cliff, welcome back.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
My friend loved her French bulldog with all her heart and blew all her money, tens of thousands of dollars, keeping this poor dog alive. It was one health thing after the other. It died young, and she was devastated. For like a year at work, she was like crying at her desk. I felt bad for her. This is not a breed that's well known for being healthy. They've got health problems from day one, which begs the question, why are people breeding these things? Why do people enter this cycle of heartbreak of having this dog breed that is like unhealthy, dies young, has health problems? It really made me wonder why. Why not why not adopt a healthy puppy from the pound?
Yeah, and I mean, people are breeding them. Breeders are breeding them for supply and demand. They're in such demand that they're just going to keep breeding them. And they're the number one breed as far as sort of recent purchases in the US right now, the French Bulldogs. And so not only are you getting just a lot of them, and yes, they have a lot of problems, but because there's such a high demand, you get sort of poor breeders that are breeding them, not real breeders that are breeding them. And there's massive inbreeding issues, but they know they can make money on them. They're the cutest puppies in the world. And that's the problem. That's the mistake. Much like in human life, maybe the cuter the person is, the more expensive they're going to be, maybe.
Is that why no one ever spent any money on me?
Maybe, but you're going to live a long time, man.
Great.
Your beauty's in your soul.
Thank you, Cliff.
Your beauty's in your soul.
Yeah, I mean, I get why breeders do it, but as a widely owned pet, I do worry,
Yeah, and the problem is people buy them either on impulse, or at least it's not a spur of the moment necessarily, because they're thousands of dollars, but all they look at are the Instagram photos of how cute they are. They're not doing the research. And let's talk about that. So first of all, they are what are called brachycephalic breeds, which is basically what I call squishy face dogs. They are the ultimate squishy face dog. Their nostrils are pinched, their eyes are bugging out of their heads. Their epiglottis in the back of their throat is elongated, so it closes up their airway. So they're constantly going, ha, 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 trying to breathe. My little Bo rescue dog just freaked out here.
You can't say epiglottis on the radio, Cliff. That's a banned word. What does that even mean, epiglottis?
Epiglottis, it's the flappy thing at the back of the throat.
Oh, that little hangy thing, that little ball that flaps back and forth.
Well, I think that's called the uvula. It's like it's below that. You have to like intubate a dog to know what the epiglottis is. But it basically protects the esophagus, the digestive tract, and the airway separately. So when you swallow, the food goes down the right pipe. And when you breathe, the air goes down the right pipe. But the problem is these guys can't breathe. So they can't breathe. So they have constant issues. We got to do nose job surgeries on them and airway surgeries on them. Then they have massive skin disorders for various reasons, and it's really just genetics. And then their musculoskeletal system, their joints, they're all chondrodysplastic as well. This is a Latin lesson as well.
You can't say chondrodysplastic on the radio either. What do these words mean, Cliff? Just say the thing without the fancy Latin word. Come on.
Chondrodysplastic means twisted, stunty bones.
Yeah, why don't you just say that?
Because it makes me seem smarter, okay? This is all I got.
You're not smart enough to not be on this show, so just,
That's touche. That's a touche at you. Okay, so they got these twisted bones. They got these short, squat, stumpy, I'm trying to simplify these words, stumpy spines. So they're often blowing their vertebrae and end up living their life with a doggy wheelchair. all kinds of problems, but they're so cute. And so unfortunately, people then they either spend all kinds of money, and often these pets, unfortunately, you have to say goodbye to them way too early, 5, 6, 7 years old, or people decide that they don't want to, or they can't afford to take care of them, and then they get dumped on the shelters. So people need to just go and get a rescue dog for so many reasons. First of all, mixed breed dogs, just average dogs, they live longer. On average, they live about 18 months longer, which is significant for their lives. That's like us living an extra 10 years. And they have so many fewer health problems because they're just average built. Everything is normal. They're kind of shaped like a wolf, but kind of not, and a little bit smaller. And mind you, if everyone went and got those dogs, veterinarians would go out of business. But I'm almost retired, so it's okay if I go out of business. Yes, get a rescue dog like I ended up doing by going up to the Arctic and getting little Bo. Stay away from these designer breeds.
Yeah, they're bred to kind of stretch 1, 2, 3, 4 genetic traits with a kind of disregard for the others, whereas crossbred dogs just have the sort of average genetics that are a little bit good, a little bit bad, but on average, they're not like really specialized in one thing at the detriment to others. So that's kind of the thinking there.
Exactly. And I mean, the reality is the further away you get from a wolf, as far as shape, as far as appearance, let's say, those traits that you've pulled that are different from a wolf are all genetic defects that we've selected for by genetically modifying.
Mutations, but yeah.
Well, I guess. I like to call them defects. And we're selecting for them. We as a species are selecting for them. So we cause these problems, and then these poor dogs suffer. So I love my Frenchie owners. I love my Frenchie patients, but know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't own them. I'm not saying the breed should go away, but it should be, you should proceed with caution. You should know what you are getting into. You should really understand dog breeding and the cost and what you're getting into, and not just, it's the cutest puppy in the puppy mill, therefore I'll buy it. Like that's kind of what we're saying here.
Exactly. Buy with your heart and your head, and not just your heart.
All right, our final topic here. Happy dogs make happy humans.
Mm-hmm.
What really makes a dog happy, though?
Good segue into this article, because the title sort of tricks you. So this article and this sort of /survey was talking about how happy dogs are when they chew things, and we need to provide that happiness for them. So I love commercially prepared dog foods, kibbles, cans, and this is the same thing for cat food. It's much more nutritionally sound. Animals live longer, period. But we have taken away the hours of hunting that the animal would normally be doing, which is stimulating their brain, keeping them sort of exercised. For a cat has to eat 10 mice if that's all they're eating in a day. And for every one mouse they catch, they lose 9 of them. They only get 10%. So they're chasing 100 mice just to get their sort of daily calories, right? So we've taken that away, and they've gone from dogs in the wild, like dingoes and whatnot. They've gone from
eating babies.
A dingo ate my baby. They spend like 108 minutes. So what is that? Almost an hour 40, almost an hour 50 on a single meal. Whereas my dog Bo, does it in 30 seconds. And that's bad for their digestion. So when they slowly chew, the saliva, the stimulation of peristalsis is good, builds up the microbiome. But in the end, it makes them happy. So happy dog, happy person, happy wife, happy life, all those things. I prefer to make my dog happy. You got to let them chew. But back to the behavioral issue that we talked about last segment, just don't let them chew on your fancy shoes. Let them chew on a safe veterinarian approved chew toy. Let's say that. Or
like a tasty bone looking thing, that they take hours to destroy.
Yeah, there can be issues with that though. So this is the problem. As a veterinarian, I look at the joy that they're having, and I think surgery, obstruction, abrasions. It's really ruined my my innocence for loving animals, but I still do.
Well, Cliff, thank you for ruining our innocence. I appreciate your time.
It's my job, man. Thanks.
Dr. Cliff Redford is a veterinarian. When we come back, we'll cover brain rot. Do you have it in this age of social media? Are you worried about those around you who do?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
The promise of social media was that it was supposed to connect us, not melt our brains like cheese. But now we scroll for hours, we feed our brains dumb dopamine, and we call that activity restful. I'm here with Dr. Masoud Kianpour, who's a sociology professor and researcher at Toronto Metropolitan University, to discuss brain rot and why we're taking that more seriously now. Masoud, thanks for talking to me today.
Thanks for having me, David.
Let's start here. I know it was Oxford's word of the year, but what is brain rot, the star of the show today?
Yes. I think it has different meanings depending on who you are talking with. With the so-called alpha generation, the kids who were born after 2010, it has a particular meaning related to a specific memes that go viral on internet. So it could be anything from the skibidi toilet meme.
Oh my, I knew you were going to say skibidi toilet, and I feel like I don't understand what that is, but maybe that's the point.
Yeah, a series of funny videos went viral last year that kids began to talk about on their playgrounds in a schoolyard. And they also know that it is something that is just there. You look at it and you laugh, but it does not have any purpose. And if you spend a lot of time browsing short videos with such themes, you end up wasting your time, not learning anything, not doing anything particularly educational or culturally significant, yet you've spent your time and you've laughed. And a lot of kids know that they're wasting their time, yet that's how they're supposed to deal with one another, talk about the stuff that is the word of mouth on internet. And so for those kids, this is an example of brain rot. When you spend endless time watching short videos without any purpose and as a way to procrastinate on more important productive activities. Generally, we can say that this has become a habit of many people, irrespective of their age or social status class. A lot of us, because we have all these smartphones at our disposal, sometimes people would say that smartphones have become like an extension of our hands. We carry them everywhere we go while we are waiting in a queue, while we go for a bathroom break, while we are at class, in transit, everywhere. And so, it's the easiest way to go to your online feeds and watch these videos and see what is going on. So when you spend a lot of time watching these short videos or these online feeds endlessly, you end up wasting your time, not learning anything. And Oxford decided that the very term brain rot could be the word of year for 2024, because a lot of us have ended up in a lifestyle where this is a significant part.
Is browsing 2-minute videos, watching silly memes, just aimlessly being on our phones, is this just a quirk of the younger generation and just a fun thing that the older generations do? Or are we witnessing like a real shift in our capacity for deep attention? If we're always just paying attention to 2-minute things, are we losing that as a society?
Yeah, some people would argue that this is just a tool, a technology that you can use either productively, positively, or negatively. And, internet is there. It has valuable source of information. You could use it productively, so we should not blame that. And we should look at it as a tool. But some technological advancements are more than just a mere tool. I mean, a lot of people examine that with like a knife. You could use it for cutting vegetable, or you can stab someone, depending on how you use it. But
yeah,
with tools such as the omnipresent internet, it is not just a tool. They have such fundamental structural, they cause such fundamental structural changes in our life, in our everyday activities, that they end up change us who we are as humans. And as you mentioned, our cognitive processing abilities might get changed. The way our brain react and work might change when we spend so much time on these devices. And when we do everything with these devices, we might end up having shortened attention span. We may not be able to process things in the way we used to. And therefore, that's why they are not just mere neutral tools. They have changed the way we interact with one another, the way we see the world, the way we function, our brain, our body. So it is more than just a tool, and everyone is involved in it.
I want to talk about what psychologists are calling digital drugs, like things like compulsive online shopping, overconsumption of pornography, staying hooked on social media feeds, anything that you do online that's compulsive. Is it time we start treating the consumption of that sort of stuff like the way we treat the consumption of drugs or alcohol?
In a sense, we could say that this is also another example of how our brain reacts to these dopamine releases that we experience when we do those online activities that you mentioned. You know, psychologists are worried about how we become addicted to digital consumption for the sake of the dopamine that our brain enjoys. And if you do that regularly and unconsciously, you end up become hooked to it, addicted to it. And there's always something new that could grab your attention for a few more seconds. So sometimes people might say that, okay, I'm just have these 5 minutes of free time. Let's go and see what is going on. But you might do that before you want to go to bed, and then you end up spending more than an hour browsing videos.
It's happened to all of us, whether it's watching one more episode of that TV program, scrolling through one more Instagram feed, buying that one more cheap thing on Amazon. I think we've all experienced that.
Exactly, yeah.
If I wanted to de-rot my brain, unplug a bit, engage with deep thinking, deep learning, how would I even start if I'm heavily addicted to my phone?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there has been already a lot of suggestions. It's funny how we look at it. I was reading about this app that provides you with the so-called monk status.
There's got to be a certain irony of an app helping you not use apps, right?
Exactly. And, they talk about how if you put your phone on monk status, like a monk, you can become self-reflexive and you can become thoughtful. But we do not pay attention to the fact that living as a monk is totally different from being attached to all these technologies and modern lifestyle. I mean, a monk would ideally look at the world and life quite differently from all these material attachments. So how you can use a material possession to transcend this sphere and go to a sort of a spiritual existence by spending a few minutes away from technology. That's not how we should see it. If we want to be more thoughtful and reflective, we should think about these structural changes that are taking place while our life have become intertwined with technology. So, I mean, if you could spend less time and give yourself some break from technology, but if you do not change the bigger picture, if you do not see the bigger picture, if you do not think about what is happening with our lives on a more general scale, things are not going to change significantly. You could probably spend a few minutes less on internet, but the overall way that our lives are shaped by technology is something that we need to pay attention to if we want to make a fundamental change in our lifestyle.
Well, Masoud, thanks for talking to me about this. I feel like my brain didn't rot while I was talking to you, 10 minutes of the day, but I'll probably go back to being on my phone during the commercial break. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, David, and I hope your listeners enjoy this conversation.
Dr. Masoud Kianpour is a sociology professor and researcher at Toronto Metropolitan University. Up next, join us as we critique the idea that work is supposed to be your emotional support. Isn't it just a spot to make money?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that makes you laugh, think, and occasionally uncomfortable. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Work is supposed to make you money, not be your form of emotional support. But the common narrative from people, even governments, are that jobs can help you feel better, like this big antidepressant. But is work really about well-being, or is it just about getting paid? I'm here with someone who's written on that. His name is Neil Davenport. He's a London, England-based writer and teacher. Neil, thanks for talking to me today.
Pleasure to be on the show.
So why are we treating unemployment like a mental health crisis? Why do we treat folks who are unemployed like they're going through something mentally hard? And walk me through what made you want to write about this in the first place.
I think the backdrop to this is in Britain and in America, we do have a therapeutic culture which tends to view people as not being resilient and as being vulnerable. And it's a term that's not just used for children or for adults with learning difficulties. It has become a go-to catchphrase for a lot of people, and people who are unemployed end up being in that category of being seen as vulnerable and having sort of poor well-being. And so that's the prism through which we tend to view individuals now as vulnerable rather than as active citizens and resilient.
Why the shift in that narrative? Why is that a recent thing? Like young people equate not working with having mental health issues, and that may not always be the case.
Well, I think in Britain it has the welfare benefit system has tended to encourage that. When there were periods of huge unemployment in this country, successive governments shifted unemployed people onto incapacity benefit as a way of massaging unemployment statistics at the time, particularly in the 1980s. But I think within the catering professions and within the sort of public sector, the issue of vulnerability and the issue of mental health and well-being just took on a life of its own. And it became a badge through which you were seen as a responsible person if you were talking about mental health. And if you questioned it, you might have been seen as callous.
Walk me through your story. You, 15 months ago, you were saying before the break, took some time away from work because of medical issues?
Yes, I had a brain hemorrhage. I had a stroke, which meant I was off work from teaching for the best part of 4 or 5 months. And once I'd regained the mobility and regained my sort of faculties, I was very keen to go back to work. And what was interesting is occupational therapists would only talk about going back to work in terms of well-being. And in a sort of chase-up session I had a couple of months ago, the guy said, "I'm sure it's good for your mental well-being being back at work." And my reply was, "No, it's actually good for my bank balance." and that's what gave me the idea for the article, because it's like, why are we talking about well-being? Work is about income. It's about money. And I think when I mentioned it to somebody else, it was almost seen as uncouth, or it was seen as not the thing to say, as in you should be back at work teaching because you enjoy teaching and you want to help young people. You can't dare say it's about making sure my pension is okay or making sure I've got more money. And so that was the spark for the article. And then what reinforced that, the current Department for Work and Pensions Minister, Liz Kendall, said exactly the same thing, that we want to encourage young people to try and get into work because it'll be good for their mental health, it'll be good for their well-being. But what happened about the material aspiration of that will work in order to make money? And so that's where that came from.
I used to work in Silicon Valley before I decided I wanted to be in media. And if you went into interview with a technology company and they said, "Why do you want to work here?" and you are a great employee, you got great references, you're a self-starter, you're a very efficient employee, you're amazing at what you do. If you answer that question, "I want to be here for the paycheck," Like you won't get the job.
That's it. Yeah.
Companies have this narrative that you like have to want to be there for other reasons. And yet everyone's there for the paycheck. If payroll stopped paying everyone, no one would show up.
No, absolutely. And I think there's also the danger of the expectation that paid work should become voluntary work, and then it becomes a reason not to pay reasonable wages. If you have a narrative saying, well, you should be doing this out of the goodness of your heart to prove that you're an altruistic person rather than doing it for your financial self-interest.
Let's play the devil's advocate here. I think a lot of people, most people, 99% of people are at their job for the paycheck first and foremost. But there is some truth to the idea that work can support mental health by providing structure, purpose, and kind of a community. Like you and your coworkers form a little community and you're kind of in that struggle together. There's got to be some mental health benefit there.
I would agree with that. There is dignity in labor, as the old phrase goes, and it does mean that people are not preoccupied with their inner thoughts if they're at work and they're socializing with other people. It does have mental health benefits, and it does have sort of self-esteem benefits. I don't deny that in the article, but when that replaced the purpose of work as being a contract of wage and income, then the priorities become all wrong, I think.
Yeah, and companies can get away with paying people less because they say, "Oh, you're here for other reasons, but the paycheck."
Yeah, I was a freelance journalist before going into teaching, but the amount of times there was the expectation that you write an article for the glory and not for the paycheck, which is probably one of the reasons why freelance journalism is so badly paid, especially in this country. There's an expectation that you're doing it for other reasons and you're not really doing it for the money. It's like a hobby that you should be pleased and sort of do rather than actually get paid for it. So that's the danger when work is removed entirely from wages.
I think that's completely true. I think that's true of any creative pursuit. Before getting into radio, I was into stand-up comedy, and I've never seen such abuse by comedy club runners, show producers who make, it's not huge amounts of money, but they might make a few $1,000s off of a night, and they give the comedians like $10. They don't pay them a fair wage because they're supposed to be in it for the love of the work. Do you think the view of work as therapeutic is a bit patronizing to people?
Absolutely, because it is treating unemployed or it's treating the workforce as patients, mental health patients, that not as citizens who can contribute to the economy. So it does recast what being a citizen is all about, because it was always the basic starting point of being a citizen is that you went out and worked and you became self-reliant as a consequence of that. You're not a patient, you're a worker, and you would take pride in that. So it is patronizing in that sense as well, particularly the idea of people need help and support rather than actually being resilient enough to sort of go out and get a job and to do it.
What advice would you have for young people just entering the workforce who, are seeing things presented a certain way and just kind of deciding how to start their careers?
My advice would be that a structure to the day helps you organize your time better. Entry level into work, no matter what it is usually a gateway to other better things, either in the workplace you've entered into or further down the line, because it does pave the way for greater opportunities elsewhere. And also, it's important to leave the house. I think it's not a good thing to have an entirely privatized existence. Going back to your question, why has this come about? It is a little bit of a knock-on effect from working at home syndrome after COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
I think that also contributes to it. This idea that we don't really want to leave the house. We just want to be like a sick kid taking time off school, and that's how we're going to live our lives. So that definitely needs to be knocked on the head. The post-COVID working from home syndrome.
Well, Neil's writings on this subject can be found on Spiked. The article is called Work is for Wages, Not for Well-Being, and Neil Davenport is a London-based writer and teacher. Neil, thank you for joining me. Thanks for the chat. I've enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, David.
Gyms seem like a nice, well-put-together place. But behind the scenes, it's personal trainers that are keeping things in order. And this is not a job with good work conditions. One person who studied personal trainers found their work conditions comparable to the Middle Ages. minus the gruel, because I assume they served gruel back then. So join me after the break as we take a closer look at the lives of personal trainers and how bad things are for these folks when they're getting their career started.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Gyms look shiny, but behind the scenes, things aren't always so pretty. Some personal trainers work unpaid hours in conditions that are comparable to the Middle Ages, minus the tights, except maybe also wearing tights. So how does fitness go from feel good to a terrible, terrible job for personal trainers? Let us find out with Dr. Geraint Harvey, who is the Dan Cap Chair at Western University in London, Ontario. Harvey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Anytime I see an academic paper titled Corrosive Solo Self-Employment, the Qualitative and Quantitative Impact of Neo-Villainy in the Fitness Industry, it piques my interest. So let's start here. What inspired you to try to compare personal trainers to medieval serfs? Why that metaphor?
Well, the initial research was undertaken 16 years ago. And at the time, I just wanted to go into the gym, spend a lot of time there. It's how I deal with stress. So I'll have a look at what these people do. I'm fairly familiar with the context. Initially, I wanted to see, what was important about the job. Was it how they looked, or was it how they behaved with clients? And initially, the findings were that, you've got to have a threshold look. You got to seem to embody what you do, but a lot more of it was about that personal connection. However, through the research, interviewing these people, watching what they did, it became very clear that the job was unique, and it really is unique in sort of the contemporary period. These people are self-employed, but there are so many aspects of the job which are very different from what we see elsewhere. Actually, the closest comparative worker would be somebody who drives for Uber or Lyft. A lot of similarities there. But this is a very unique relationship that the personal trainer has with the gym.
So tell me that relationship. I didn't know that most personal trainers are self-employed, and yet they're at the gym. Tell me about that relationship. Why is it so problematic, and why is the working condition so awful?
Well, what's interesting about these folks is that they are self-employed. They are genuinely self-employed. So one of the things that I talk about with students is the difference between genuine self-employment and bogus or false self-employment. And genuine self-employment, these are the people we're familiar with. If you get a contractor, plumber, electrician, and larger businesses as well. These are people who genuinely are self-employed. They set the rate of how much somebody pays. They determine how they do the job, and so on and so on. Where we've got this idea of false self-employment and bogus self-employment, this is where somebody is essentially an employee, but they've got none of the guarantees an employee gets. So they don't have job security, they don't have holiday pay, sick pay, and so on. Now, personal trainers, they are genuinely self-employed, but there are a lot of aspects of the job which change how they operate and control how they operate. So they don't have complete freedom in terms of what they do. So the personal trainer, particularly in the UK, the personal trainer will spend a very long time in the gym. The first aspect of the job is that they need to attract clients. They don't get paid because they're self-employed. Now, to operate in the gym, they have to pay a rent. They have to pay to be there. And there's very good reason for that. First of all, they need to get access to clients. And that is incredibly difficult outside. They can advertise, social media, the wonders of the World Wide Web, but it's still very difficult to attract clients. Now, if they're in a gym where they've got a captive audience, thousands of clients in gyms, then it makes sense to be there. Also, they get access to equipment. and the equipment to buy is incredibly expensive. So it makes sense to operate it. So they have to pay to be there. So they start each month and they've got that deficit because they're paying money out, they're not getting any money in. Now, they then need to work hard to attract clients. So how do they do this? Well, they do things that they're not paid for, but would actually benefit the gym. So what kind of things do? They engage in customer service. So one of the things they do, they're very friendly. People come into the gym and the personal trainer's like, yeah, how are things? How are you going? What are you thinking about working on? What are you trying to achieve? Now, that is interpreted as customer service. That isn't paid for by the gym. That is supplied by the personal trainer because it makes sense for them to do it because they want to make that connection. So they engage in a lot of work that is not paid, but which benefits the gym in order to make that connection.
So we're talking hours and hours here of unpaid labor. People at the gym think that their employees just there to help them, kind of. They're paying for that privilege. How many hours are we looking at on average from the personal trainer?
Well, the most recent study we've done, data collected in 2018 in the UK. So there is a difference. This is the UK. We're looking at work between 30 and 60 hours on the gym floor. Now, when we say 30 to 60 hours, people say, well, that's not very much. People work longer hours than that. That's not all they do. That is their sort of customer interface. Beyond that, there's preparing dietary plans, exercise plans. There's marketing beyond that. You can add between 25 and 50% on top of that to cover all of the work that they do. Now, 30 to 60 hours, some of this is paid. A heck of a lot of it isn't paid. This is unpaid work, and this is all beneficial to the organization that they're working in.
Some people assume the job of a personal trainer is like a dream job. It's flexible, it's active, maybe even glamorous. I'm getting the image of the handsome trainer training the wealthy clients. This is completely the opposite of the average case, isn't it?
Now, that's a really, really good point, David. And lots of people want to do it because they do have this misconception that it is going to be this wonderful thing where they're helping people, that they're doing something they love, they're in the gym. I enjoy spending time in the gym. I wouldn't want to spend any longer in there than I'd have to do the exercise and get out. So there is this you're absolutely right. There is this misconception. Now, this creates another problem. There's lots of turnover of these people, and it is very easy to get the qualifications needed in order to operate as a personal trainer. This can be done very quickly. So, okay, we got lots of people who wanted to do it, lots of opportunities to do it, and then we had that special sauce, which is the gym wants lots of people doing it because they're paying a rent and they're providing work. Now, this work isn't just customer service. There are other things these people do. They engage in cleaning. They will tidy things away. Now, we think about COVID, okay? What did COVID do? It had a massive impact on all businesses, but not all businesses were equal under COVID. Some businesses, the airline industry, which is another area of research of mine, got hammered, as did the fitness sector. Lots of gyms closed down, but lots opened back up and lots of people are back in the gyms. But the legacy it's left with is cleanliness is very much next to godliness. It is really important to make sure that gym space is clean.
So what would you like people to know? Maybe one good thing to know, maybe to treat personal trainers a little better, acknowledging that the job is actually kind of rough.
Absolutely right. Bear that in mind. But I think a really important point for government is that there is this understanding or, again, misconception that self-employment is good for unemployment, that it kind of reduces unemployment numbers. Now, what we've seen from this study is because of the additional work that these people do, they actually take the jobs that other people would be needed in a gym, for example, customer service and cleaning, and they do it for free. They do it in the gym for being able to do it. So we've got to be mindful that some of these types of self-employment can actually be damaging to employment.
So you'd like to see a little government regulation around this job so these people aren't doing that work for free?
Certainly.
All right. Well, Dr. Geraint Harvey is the Dan Cap Chair at Western University in London, Ontario. Harvey, thank you for this chat. It's kind of eye-opening. It's always good to know about how people are employed and what those conditions are like so we can be more empathetic around what they do.
Always happy to talk. Thank you so much, David.
That's the show. I'm grateful you listened to it. Check out our podcast at www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. I know, it's stupid. And on that website, you'll find our social media. Give us a follow. Or not. I'm not your mother. I can't tell you what to do. Hope you have a nice weekend. We will catch you Monday night. I'm David Cooper. This is the last show, and I'll leave you with this proverb. Only the silent trumpet knows the true sound of restraint.